Hello, everyone. It's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland reviewer. Welcome to Lost in the Wasteland, my weekly show where I get to interview somebody and get a bit of a perspective on their perspective on movies. And this week, I have my pal Dean here, who I connected with on Instagram, and I'm going to let him introduce himself and shamelessly plug whatever he would like to shamelessly plug for his accounts and stuff like that.
Thanks for making it shamelessly good. Yep. Hi, I'm Dean. My name is Dean, and I have an account called Post Credits Dean on Instagram. Just started a YouTube channel as well. Pretty much love movies. Movies have been inspiring me since I was a kid, and I love the art of storytelling behind them. And my goal is not just like talk about them, explore, and find that community. I'm coming at an angle where growing up, I didn't really have people who look like me who were doing films, and I kind of
Mhm.
want to be that version of this generation. So if you enjoy something like that, if you like seeing brown people talk about film, hit me up.
Awesome. And I'm excited to have you on here, Dean. And we're going to get
Yeah.
things started with everybody's favorite or least favorite question to be asked as a movie fan. What's your
Mhm.
favorite film?
Favorite film. Okay, this was like a little tricky to get because I don't, like I said, I don't really want to pick favorites. They all depend on the mood.
Yep.
And I'm going to actively avoid like superhero stuff because everyone who follows me knows that I enjoy that. So that's going to be another conversation. So I went back and I looked at what I really enjoyed. And recently, I think Jojo Rabbit was a film that I would put as one of my favorites, like all time classic, something that anybody can watch and enjoy. And I think it's because like going in, I never knew what it was about. I just was like, I
Mhm.
like Taika Waititi after Thor Ragnarok. I'm like, let's see what he's doing here. And then just have you seen the movie by the way? I don't want
Yes.
to. Awesome. All right.
It was
Yeah.
my top film of
Same here.
2019.
Yeah.
Yep.
Exactly. And I was like, I was just impressed with how he took the source material and he was able to make it humorous and funny, but also empathetic. And I'm just
Yep.
like, and that was very inspiring to me as a storyteller as well. I'm like, that's what I need to learn. Like, how did he capture that emotion of something that the world is just throwing away? But he's able to do it through the innocence of a child while portraying a character who is just can be a little tricky to portray on screen.
Yep.
And overall, I've never heard a bad thing. Like, it's just something that everyone seems to enjoy. The hardest part is selling this movie to others too, because when I tell other people about it and I ask them to watch it and I tell them it's like this fun Nazi Germany comedic movie, they're like, "Nah, I don't want to watch that. That seems weird." I'm like, "No, it's hard. It's more than it sounds, but it's really hard to tell people about it and get them watching." But oh, I mean, I should probably like give a little insight on the movie though for people who haven't seen it without
Mhm.
spoilers. So Jojo Rabbit is about this little kid who was in a Nazi internment camp, and he's on Germany's side. Basically, they're training young kids to be Nazi soldiers. And Taika Waititi, the director of Thor Ragnarok and a bunch of other really fun movies, he portrays an imaginary version of Hitler in the child's head because this child idealizes Hitler as anyone would idealize the leader growing up. And it sounds like it's dark, but it's actually a very satirical take. And it portrays how kids are innocent and how a lot of people back then weren't really on board with this. Similar to like the situation now is just people are just in it. Like you don't really
Mhm.
get to choose much what you are. Like if someone says to do something, you just have to do it because you're not in a position to fight back. So he explores this really well in an era of time that was pretty tricky with history. But yeah.
Yeah, I remember hearing
Hmm.
when they announced that Taika Waititi's working on a film called Jojo Rabbit with Scarlett
Hmm.
Johansson, and he's gonna play Hitler, and I'm like, what?
What's happening here?
And when those first trailers came out, I was just like,
Hmm. Yeah.
this looks exactly what I would want this to be.
Yeah.
And it came out, and I was just floored because I remember when I did see this, I had a double feature that day in theaters. I
Oh.
saw this, went to dinner, and came back and saw Parasite. So
Oh.
it was a great day
That
to
was
be
a
a
good,
movie
yeah, man.
fan.
Two different movies, but two incredibly good
Yeah,
movies.
because they both came out in my area the same day,
Ah,
that same
okay.
weekend. And I had waited weeks for both of them because, they're
Mm-hmm.
smaller releases, they're slowly coming out.
Yep.
And oh, I was floored by this movie. It's hilarious. It's emotionally devastating. There's parts where it just like hits you hard.
There's one scene in particular which is just one of the most like craziest. I don't want to spoil it, but it's just
Yep,
a very painful scene. But yeah.
just bam.
Yep.
Now, Dean, what's your earliest memory of going to the movies?
Earliest. Oh yeah. So this one earliest would be maybe 20 years ago when I saw the first Spider-Man film. And that's the best. I think my aunt saw it and then she wanted to take me for it because she liked that quote of with great power comes great responsibility.
Mhm.
Because I was like maybe 8 or 10 at that point, and she's like, I want you to see it and pay attention to the end because that's what I want you to carry forward.
Yep.
And I remember enjoying it because again, like back then, 20 years ago, we didn't have movies coming out every week. Like now there's superhero stuff all around. Like back then, Sam Raimi's Spider-Man, I think the first one was really like, it did change blockbuster cinema, like a summer blockbuster in a way that we hadn't seen. And the only other property, I guess, was X-Men, which came out around the same time, but that was a little more adult themed, whereas this Spider-Man was more accessible. And I definitely remember like sitting in watching it. I remember that last scene very well as well, because when he's walking in the graveyard and that great power comes with responsibility. And then it's like, who am I? I'm Spider-Man. He's swinging through, and you get that first swinging through New York City. So that was, one of the earliest memories I have watching it on the big screen. I'm like, oh, this, and that's when I kind of, a lot of the love of directing, of superhero genres, all of that kind of stuck with me at that point, which is kind of carried forward.
And that's really exciting because that's like a special movie to see as a kid. And I recall I didn't get to see any Spider-Man films in a theater until the third one. I think that was the first one I actually saw in a theater. But boy, did I watch the heck out of the first two on TV when they came out. So all that nostalgia came all back around. Recently with No Way Home and, like Sam Raimi coming back and doing a Marvel movie with Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness. And I have a sinking feeling that's right up his alley.
I'm excited to see where he takes it.
Some crazy weird stuff's gonna happen.
Because Sam Raimi's, I think, pretty good with like, he knows what elements of the comic to take out and put on a screen to not make it weird but also fit. Like I think that's why all those Raimi trilogy movies are Spider-Man movies that just are in their own universe. It's weird and comic-y, but it's also kind of fun to watch.
Because like you have like all those like Sam Raimi isms, like the like extreme like Dutch angles and like the
horror,
just the
women.
love the shots of like quick camera like shooting in at a face and being like because it's just like it's funny watching the Spider-Man movies as a kid, and then when you're older you watch Evil Dead and you're like, wait a minute, this makes so much more sense. Like that whole entire scene in the second one with Doc Ock at the hospital, it's terrifying.
And it's weird to think in hindsight that was in a kid's movie back then, because that is pretty like, I went back and watched it. It actually is a little more gory. I guess at kids we didn't really like think too much into it. It's
just like, wow, this has an edge here. And that's the thing, because it's like, there's certain directors that do have that little tinge of horror in it. And, I think that's going to be perfect for Doctor Strange.
Multiverse
Madness. So
really weird.
Looking forward to seeing
it. Like you mentioned, as you said with No Way Home, that's kind of why No Way Home hit me so well, is because after 20 years, I'm seeing Toby and Willem Dafoe and Alfred Molina all come back and they have such good conclusions. And I'm like, oh, this is like 20 years in the making for me. Like this was when I last saw them then. And now I'm like, oh, I feel like they've finished their story, at least in this point, which was really nice.
Oh, just because, Willem Dafoe as the Green Goblin has been so popular for years, and especially because meme culture. And just the memes everywhere. And him coming back and being just like, he is vile and sadistic and just so much fun to watch. And you're just like, oh, I miss this.
And it's the only villain. I mean, I read this somewhere as well. Like Tom Holland usually had like villains who are like, who he could reason with and talk to, but Willem Dafoe's Green Goblin is just like, I'm gonna mess you up. That's it. There's no talking to me. He's just had that side. And I think Holland Spider-Man had that introduction, same like Tobey Maguire in the first one, where he's like, there will just be people who just want to mess with you and who just want to kill you. You can't reason with them. You can't do anything. And he portrayed that really well.
And that's interesting because like it was a whole other level of villain this time around. It's just like,
it made him an adult Spider-Man. Now he's like, no, big boy problems.
Exactly. Now, Dean, do you have a particular favorite genre of film?
Again, it's going to be mostly the superhero comic genre, but I kind of want to, since most people know that about me, I want to give them another idea of something else. So I particularly like heist films.
Okay.
Like I love the art of like just a bunch of people getting together, planning to take down someone, scheming, reconnaissance, and then actually going and getting it done. I think Ocean's 11 was the first movie I saw where this actually, and it's done so well in Ocean's 11 as well. Like it's one of the best heist movies. But then, when I saw that for the first time, I loved the flow of it. Like every character has a unique personality. They have good chemistry and they bounce off. And in the end, the reveal of when they actually successfully pull it off is also one of the best, like the music and the way it's done.
Mhm.
Good actors as well. So I think that's kicked off that love of that genre. And I enjoy heist films because they have a specific start ending. It's not
Mhm.
like an entire story. It's mostly people get together to do a thing, and in the end they do a thing. And there's usually a lot of issues that happen in the middle, and there's usually a twist at the end that shows something different. But I kind of like how heist movies flow in that sense. It's like taking down someone and then having successfully done it. That's kind of why I like Ant-Man too. A lot of people didn't like the first Ant-Man, but I'm like, oh, it's actually a superhero heist movie,
Yeah.
which is kind of fun. Like it's not too bad. Like so,
You got to
yeah,
put the team together. You got to
yeah,
figure out how you're going to do it. You're
yep.
going to do
Get
it,
some
and
ants.
things aren't going to go right, and
Yep.
then it all comes together, and then you find out. And
Mm-hmm.
Steven Soderbergh makes like the
Ah, he's
coolest
good, man.
movies.
He does. He does.
Coolest
He's unique
movies.
with this. I think recently, I don't know if you heard he tried to make a movie entirely on an iPhone. I haven't seen it yet, but I've
Unsane.
heard of
That
it.
was
Oh
that was
yeah,
a very interesting experience.
yeah.
It's really creepy.
Oh, is it?
Um,
Okay, okay, okay.
and then you have because you have Ocean's 11, and then you have like
Oceans.
Redneck Ocean's
Redneck.
11 with Logan Lucky,
Oh, I have to see
which
that. I've heard it's an amazing movie. It's
which
been on this for
that's
a
so
long
much
time.
fun, and
Good.
it's
Yep.
equally like memorable characters except
Yeah.
so different
Okay.
because you have Channing Tatum, Adam
Mhm.
Driver as a military vet who's missing an arm, who's just very
Okay.
dry-witted, and like
Mhm.
Daniel Craig is a whole like
I've
he's
heard. Yeah,
so ridiculous in
I've
that
heard praises
movie.
about his performance in Logan Lucky.
And then
And
if
one
you
of the people
love
don't
heist
know.
movies,
Mm-hmm.
it's so funny when a couple of seasons ago when Rick and Morty spoofed heist movies.
Yeah,
And
I saw that.
I swear one of
Yep.
my most quoted things from Rick and Morty is definitely
Mm-hmm.
"You son of a bitch, I'm in."
Yeah, I mean, oh, and again, a lot of memes on that, and I remember that one as well. I love that they parody almost every heist movie in that, like just things going in
Yes.
different things and people double crossing and everything.
That whole episode
It's
just
hilarious.
goes
It's
so off the
crazy.
rails and ridiculous.
Yep.
And
And
just how it just keeps going and going
mm-hmm.
and
Yep,
going. It's
as
just
Rick
like,
and Morty
no,
does.
here's a twist within a twist within a twist within a
Yep.
twist. And it's just like, oh my God, this show.
You brought that back on,
Now,
and I'm gonna go rewatch it. And also, before we move on to the next one, I just want to
yep,
mention Inception is also a really good heist movie in that sense. Like most people don't think of it that way, but it actually Nolan envisioned it as like a dream heist film, which it kind of is. It's
it
just a
is.
different goal and
Instead of going
pretty
in and
nice.
dropping, like taking something out, it's
See
going in
that?
and
Yeah,
dropping something in.
put something in. Yeah, nice. Which is
Now,
awesome.
do you have any particular favorite filmmakers?
Oh yeah, since we just went into Inception, like Nolan is up there, but it's gonna be like a little
Yep.
bit of a tie between Nolan and Edgar Wright, like both
Okay.
for different reasons. Because I kind of love both. I love everything that they do. With Nolan, I kind of feel like Nolan really explores this. He doesn't stick to the conventional storytelling structure, which I like.
Mhm.
Like he always experiments with like non-linear storytelling, or how can I tell this story instead of from A to Z? I want to go in like all different ways before I get there. And it doesn't always work, of course. Like Tenet, of course, is like a little bit more convoluted, but things like Prestige and Inception kind of actually do fit well. But that's
Mhm.
the thing. He kind of pushes that boundary of like, how do I tell the story with an audience? The thing is with Nolan, it could easily be confusing and incomprehensible, but because of the way he's able to direct and show it, like his structure is really, and that's something I try to incorporate when I'm trying to write my stuff as well. Is like instead of telling something straight, going in a straight way, how do I keep the audience engaged while also jumping around different plot points and trying to make it all make sense in the end, right? Which
Mhm.
Nolan does well. And Edgar Wright does something similar. He tries to push the boundaries of filmmaking, but with him, it's more about your senses, like
Yep.
the sound, the lights, the transitions, the jumping. Like he's like, why do I just need to show a film in this frame? I can just incorporate every single element I know into the film. And he's the kind of director who I feel he just whatever genre he takes up, he's successful at it. Like last night
Yes.
in Soho, the psychological, it's again a different psychological horror film, like something I've not
Mhm.
seen. Baby Driver is a different kind of again heist film or robbery film because again it's and I'm like in my mind, I'm like, does Edgar Wright know how to do this, or does he learn to do it as he is making the film? Because it seems like he's a natural. He seems like he's really good at it, but it's also not one specific genre. Like initially, he
Mhm.
just used to do like Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, like comedic, gory stuff. But now he's kind of taken up projects where he's excelling in every different genre that he does. And this is kind of why it's a little different from Nolan, because Nolan he sticks to his style of making. But Edgar Wright, I feel like he's trying to explore every genre and he's nailing it each time. And he tries to mix two genres together, like Hot Fuzz is like Midsummer Murders and Bad Boys, and this
Yeah.
one, Last Night in Soho, is like a psychological horror with like a time traveling element to it. So he takes these like 2-3 different genres and tries to tell one story around it, which is good. Like I respect that. It's something that most people may just not realize. And of course, Scott Pilgrim. I don't want to get out of the way and not mention that because that is again one movie where the first time I saw it, I'm like, oh, this is the extent of what a filmmaker can do with what he's got. Like it's not just a traditional movie. You can actually make this so entertaining and fun in such a clever way. So yeah.
What I love most about Edgar Wright is he finds the humor in the filmmaking. Cause like I just love like the sight gags and the editing and stuff like that. Cause like I think the one that gets me every time, and this is such a small thing, is in The World's End, where it's just like beer. Water. It's just like filling up the water. It's just like gets me every time because it's like it's setting up that expectation. Like, nope.
Just one
You're gonna laugh at this. And it's those little things, and like his films are perfectly edited. Just exactly how he wants them to play out. They're fast, they're furious, they're just coming at you. And
unexpected. And that's the thing. I don't know if he plans it or if he does it with the actors on the spot or in it. Like I don't know what the thought process is of getting that. It's just very interesting to see.
Well, and he obviously worked with Nick Frost and Simon Pegg a lot. Quite a bit, with his Cornetto trilogy, and like he's branched out since then. But like the fact that he could literally ruin his movies, spoil them, the whole entire movie at the beginning,
which he does,
you have no idea, and you're just like, and in hindsight, you're just like, wait a minute,
it was all here.
It was all there in the first place, and
this is a similarity with Nolan as well, though, just because even Nolan does that in most of his movies. He tells you the ending right in the first 30 minutes, but you just don't know. But
exactly. And Nolan, that's been his thing from the start. There's very few films that he's made that are just straightforward. And you know, Insomnia is probably the most straightforward film that he's made. As well. And even like a film like Dunkirk, you're like, okay, he made a war movie. He still told it in like 3 different timelines. Like, wait a minute. And
so interesting.
It was like not expecting that at all. And then it gets even more complicated when you take in Hans Zimmer's score that's working on like 3 different levels. I'm just like, there's just so much going on here. And like that's the thing, because you could watch a Christopher Nolan movie and not think about all that and just enjoy it for what it is. But if you're a fan and you could dig down, you're just like, this man's doing some
deep stuff in here. That's why both these directors, like, they have very rewatchable films, and it's very possible that every time you rewatch, you will find something more or different. Like, especially like Inception or Edgar Wright film. Like, it's just you can always keep watching them because it's not going to. It'll keep changing your experience, which is what I love about these guys. They don't try to make a one and done. They try to be like, let me see if the audience can keep being entertained.
Exactly. Now, talk about some of the people in front of the camera. But Dean, who are some of your favorite actors or actresses?
All right, let's see. So I'm going to talk about current favorites because they keep changing, of course. But right now, I think based on like Tick Tick Boom and No Way Home, like Andrew Garfield is kind of like skyrocketed. Like he was always a good actor, but I think the last time I actually saw him was Social Network, where I really liked him there. But again, that was mostly Jesse Eisenberg and all focused. But now when I saw Tick Tick Boom, and we'll talk about a little bit more later, and then No Way Home, I was like, oh, this guy is incredible. Like even in No Way Home, he kind of carried a lot of that movie. Like even though with Tom Holland and Toby in there, like the emotion he shows in the scene that he has, I'm like, oh, this guy's character is so deep and good. And I like it. And I've seen the persona that he has outside of screen, and he's just a very charming, humble person. He's just like happy to just have a chance to act. He's also been a theater actor, which is pretty incredible. And yeah, that's the thing. Andrew Garfield pretty much up there in my favorite actor list, at least right now. Like right now, I'm just really enjoying the work he's doing. And I love that his Spider-Man got redeemed. I was feeling a little bad because he is a good actor and his films kind of got shunned aside. And it wasn't his fault because I think I saw an interview where he genuinely was so happy to be Spider-Man. And then he was so hurt because he was just critically just thrown away. So just having him have that redemption again, really nice. Happy for him.
Because like there's nothing about those films that it's Andrew Garfield and Spider-Man's fault why those didn't work as well as people wanted them to. It's everything around it.
Yeah.
And I think like if you're thinking from like a purely acting standpoint, I think he's like by far the best actor who's played Spider-Man.
I would
like,
100% agree.
Yeah, because like Tobey Maguire does a fine job in a lot of things, but like I wouldn't go around saying like Tobey Maguire's like the best actor out there. And like Tom Holland, I think still finding his footing.
He's still new. He's
like
quite new into this. Yeah.
And there like a lot of the things that he's been outside of Spider-Man and like Marvel movies haven't been the most interesting or the best. So it's like Andrew Garfield, though, like he is a great actor. Tick, Tick, Boom blew me out of the water. I'm like, holy crap, what he is doing in this movie. And like what Lin-Manuel Miranda did with that movie.
Oh my God.
So, like, I know it seems like it's Will Smith's Oscar to win this year, but I really want Andrew Garfield
to get it.
But like, I'm legitimately not going to be upset if Will Smith wins because like he still did great.
I still got to watch King Richard again. I've heard it's like an amazing film.
It's that film in particular definitely was like an actor's film. So like it was a pretty by the number. Like I felt like it was a pretty by the numbers sports movie and like parenting movie and stuff like that. But like they really elevated it with the acting. Tick Tick Boom was like something on
another one. Yeah.
And Andrew Garfield carried it because like the amount of energy that he brought into everything was incredible. So Andrew Garfield, great, so popular right now.
Underrated. But yeah, I'm glad he's back. He was like kept aside for a long time. And I'm again very impressed that he did not ruin the Spider-Man thing. I'm just so glad that he didn't.
Yeah.
Because Toby wasn't, because he had to promote Tick Tick Boom while No Way Home was also going on. So they were like hounding him for it. And he's pretty good at this.
Hounded him. Like so much. Tobey Maguire could just be like,
he's not doing movies anyway, so I don't think
like disappear.
Really,
just like nobody sees me. I'll be watching Silence for my other show soon, which is on my whole kick on Scorsese movies, and Andrew Garfield at the center of that film was fantastic.
Interesting. Silence, you say? Okay.
Yeah, and that was back in 2016 when that came out.
Okay.
Now, Dean, what's a film that you could watch just like any day?
Every day, all the time? Yeah. So this is, again, I think it's getting a little bit too much into Spider-Man category, but this would be like Into the Spider-Verse.
Okay.
I think one of these films that I probably have watched all day, every day, and each time, because one, again, similar, like when I saw this in the theater for the first time, I could not believe what I was seeing because the way that animation has been pushed here is incredible. And like, I think there's a theme coming here, you recognize, I'm always trying to find directors and people who push boundaries, like Lord and Miller are again in this category. They'll take something that we know, and it was told as well, like when Sony approached them to do a Spider-Man movie, they're like, we'll do Spider-Man, but we want to do Miles Morales because it's something that nobody has seen. And then they took it and they did it so well and the reason that movie amazes me is because it came out the same year as Infinity War. And when that came out, I was like so sure that year that Infinity War would be the best movie, would be my favorite superhero movie. And then I saw Into the Spider-Verse and I'm like, then I was actually debating for a week. I'm like, wait, this is actually, I think it may be better. I think it is better. And I think Spider-Verse is a timeless film. Like you can just watch it with anybody, with any audience. Animation's amazing. Soundtrack is amazing.
Yeah.
And actors, everything. Like there's nothing really I can fault with this. Like, and again, tons of Easter eggs. Like as I keep rewatching, I kind of find like small things, that little details that they didn't have to do, but they actually did, that really makes sense. And Lord and Miller, the directors, I mean, they weren't the directors. They were really heavily involved in this. But they're really good at taking source material, and then mixing it with meta related stuff to give you good stuff. Like 21 Jump Street, another good example. Like they took something from the 80s that nobody knew about, but they knew what elements of today's age to put in, and it suddenly became one of the best comedy movies I've seen. And same thing with Spider-Verse. It's just they did a lot of similar things, but they kind of know what to show in these characters that makes it stick out. And of course, sequels coming out this year. I'm very, very excited for that. But
what Across the Spider-Verse Part 1. Exciting. You know you're great filmmakers if you can make a Lego movie work. And make it something that nobody expected it to be. Because like I remember sitting, I saw that with my fiance when that first came out, and like I don't know if the kids really were picking up on what it was laying down, but like, the two of us were sitting there like, this is amazing, and just laughing the whole time. And Lord and Miller is so fantastic. In the Spider-Verse is incredible, and you have that whole entire crew of all the different Spider-Men.
Oh man, yeah. Never gets old watching
Spider-Ham.
Nicolas Cage coming in there. John Mulaney, yeah.
Yep. And oh my God, I want to see a Spider-Man noir spin-off, and Nick Cage better be in it.
Yep. And of course, Peter B. Parker is also really good. I like seeing that older Spider-Man who's just kind of done with it. I don't think we've ever seen that before. I'm like, but it works for his character so well.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny, like
yeah, and like having Chris Pine as like the greatest,
the OG
Peter
one,
Parker, yeah, and just like,
really
that's
nice.
great. And then there's some tragic moments, there's some heavy moments, and
spoiler, but he dies.
moments.
Like Spider-Man dies in this one, and that was pretty heavy. Like I remember when that happened in the movie, and I like you feel like all hope is gone. Because when he's on screen, he's so confident and he's active and he's jumping, which is again a Spider-Man we haven't seen before, who's just happy. And like Chris Pine Spider-Man in that movie is pretty good. Like you feel safe when he's there, but when he's gone, you're like, what is going to happen?
Well, so that second where like Kingpin's just like, that, and you just feel the air came out of the theater, and you're just like,
you've never seen that before. You're like, no, this has never happened.
I'm like, holy crap! That was devastating. It was just like I feel ways. And you know, like the Kingpin's just like this monstrous hulking figure in it. And I love the animation because they really outdid themselves with everything in it.
I think Sony tried to trademark that because now I think Mitchell Goes to the Machines, which came out, was again a similar animation style, which again, amazing movie. Another thing about Spider-Man, I think, which should be forgotten, is how complex the story is, but how they made it so digestible. Like multiverses and 6 different Spider-Man and all origin stories and Sinister Six, but everything, it fits. You never really question anything. At least I didn't, because I know the lore, but I do feel like they did it so well. And again, this is what they do well with 21 Jump Street and stuff like that. They kind of they give you a lot of good source material, but they don't really make it too complex or that you need to know. They kind of fill you in well, which is, again, it's not easy. Like people underestimate how hard it is to actually have a story to this extent where you have everything. And
and especially because so many Spider-Man films have been criticized for being overstuffed. Spider-Verse does it, and you don't even think about it.
You don't even notice it. Yeah, it's there. It's just, I didn't even notice there were like 6 villains in that film until like later on. I'm like, oh yeah, it is actually like 6 different villains who are all kind of there. So it's interesting.
And they all come together and work. Now, Dean, what's a film that you feel like you connect with closely because it relates to another interest of yours?
So this, again, we're going to go back a little bit into Tick, Tick, Boom, because it's something recently I saw, which is most recently stuck with me. Because again, I'm a 30-year-old, I'm approaching 30, I'm entering this world of content creation and artistry and stuff. And I feel like there's a sticking time bomb of like, because in this world, like getting to 30 is already like a sign of like, I mean, it shouldn't be, but it's a sign of like, you got to keep doing something. Right. And I kind of felt that pain of both Lin-Manuel Miranda and Andrew Garfield. I think both of them kind of understand this, and they were able to put it in his character really well. And I kind of related a lot to that as someone who's entering this industry at the same age, who feels like they need to do something quick, otherwise everyone else is going to move on, you're going to be stuck behind. It's like this bomb. And so I related that on that a very personal level of like, okay, I understand what this guy's going through. And I understand also at the end where it's like, there's a line in the end, right, when he's asking her, like his agent, like, what do I do now? And she's like, you just got to write. You got to write the next one, you got to write the next one, and then you got to keep doing, because that's what it's like being a writer. You just got to keep doing. And that really hit me, because I'm like, that is kind of how what we're doing is. You just have to keep doing the next one. There is no real way to know when you're done. And I was like, okay, it hit deep.
So I completely understand this, because this came out on my 30th birthday.
Oh, okay.
I was sitting there because my birthday is November 19th. This came out on that Friday, and I got home from work and I put this movie on, and that first song starts going. I'm like, I feel personally attacked right now.
Attached, right? And there was no going back. Then the whole movie was just, And
I'm just like, this is hitting on a whole other different level. Thinking about because it's interesting, because a lot of this stuff that I do and like the writing and stuff like that is more just like a side thing really for me at this point in my life. But like, I'm thinking about like, if this were something that I was trying to really get into professionally, it's just like, I am at that age where it's just like, you're not new news. Usually the new news is like, you're in your early 20s and you're up and coming and stuff like that. And like, you can think about it in so many different ways. And this one hits with me very specifically because like, I'm a huge baseball fan. And
Okay.
I remember when I was in college and I was around 19, 20 years old, two
Mm-hmm.
players made their major league debuts, Bryce Harper and Mike Trout. I'm like, I'm their age. Look what they're doing.
Okay.
And now they're
Uh-huh.
like 10-year veterans. And I'm like, wow, I'm 30 years old. And
Yep.
like,
It hits when it hits you, it hits you, and then you just kind of know.
yeah, because the thing is, it's like in what I do for a living, I work at a
Mhm.
college. It's like, I'm a baby. Like people still
Mhm.
look at me as just like, you're
Yeah,
30, you haven't
you
gone through
just
much, like
started.
you have
Yeah.
decades left. But you think
Mhm.
about other kinds of industries, it's a whole different kind of perspective. And it's just
Yeah,
like, you'd be over the hill. And I'm like,
especially entertainment and stuff, right? Entertainment is so, yeah, space.
and unless you like come in later in life, and like, there's
Mhm.
certain people who were able to do that. Like, pretty sure
Yeah.
like Morgan Freeman didn't
Yep.
even
For
really heavily start acting until he was a
like
certain
40s or
age. And
something. Yeah.
like, you know, there's
J.K.
other
Rowling. I mean, not even actors. Yeah, just people who. I mean, you always hear stories because the thing is, the end goal is you just can't quit. Like I think that's even what Tick Tick Boom said. Like if you're really passionate about this, it will
Mhm.
take time, but the key difference between you and the others who fail is that you just can't quit. You have to just keep every day, get up and get yourself to keep doing it. And I think that was the one lesson that Tick Tick Boom kind of shows that he needs to understand, like this character Johnny Larson, in the sense that he thinks that he put all his effort into this one big project that's going to do really well, and it was apparently was a good thing that he did. People loved it, but at the end of the day, it didn't strike the right chord with people, and the thing is, there's that scene at the end where he realizes that it doesn't matter. It's just sometimes people won't like it, but it doesn't mean you stop. It doesn't
Yeah.
mean you quit. You have to keep going.
Well,
So
and it's sad to think about too with him specifically because like he finally
mm,
got that like
yes.
giant hit,
Yep.
but he passed away before we could
Just
even
on the
see
day,
it.
yeah. Which is
And like,
really hurtful.
yeah, and like rent became such a big thing, and it's just like, dang,
This
life
is exactly what
can
he was
be
waiting for.
cruel. Now this is interesting because we kind of spun into this, but Dean,
Yeah.
who's a particular movie character that you feel like you connect with on a personal level?
Movie character. Yeah, I couldn't think. I was thinking of an answer because it's similar to like most of the other questions. But I'm trying to think of a movie character in this sense, but I couldn't get to one
Mhm.
most recently. What do you have anyone that I can like kind of bounce off? Shoot your
So I
answer.
remember when I thought of this question, because like obviously like I
Mm,
wrote all these questions, like
it's
what would I
funny.
want to
Yeah.
ask people? Because like some of them are
Yeah.
pretty straightforward, kind of get to
Mm-hmm.
know you movie fan kind of questions. But like I wanted to come up with some other ones. And what popped in my head when I was thinking about this was like I'm a big fan of Perks of Being a Wallflower.
Oh,
And I
okay.
had recently just read the book like within the past
Mm-hmm.
year or so, but I remember being in college watching that movie for the first time. And for those who have seen it, I do not relate to everything that's happened in that movie.
Okay.
Just to put that out there. It's mostly like who Charlie is as a character and like his personality. Cause like I
Okay.
was the quiet kid. And I had strong feelings for people when I was growing up and like never would have thought to tell them and stuff like that. And like I always love to read and I appreciate that about him. And there are just a lot of things that connected with that character. And I think it's one of the main reasons why I love that film so much. And
Hmm.
because like that was something that in hindsight, I guess a lot of people love, like especially like internet like movie people, but like I just remember it's like I didn't really hear much about this movie. And I picked it up on DVD and I watched it. And I'm like, wow, this
So bring
really
back,
hit close
yeah.
to me.
So nice coming of age
Um,
film.
some people like
Yeah.
to answer this question was like kind of with like who I'd like to be. It's like,
Yeah.
I'm Batman. Pretty sure that was my but like my brother's definitely into
Yeah.
a lot of my brother loves
Mhm.
John Hughes movies. So like he
Ah,
definitely felt a connection to a lot of
old
those
school.
characters from like it's probably like a Bender
Yeah.
from
uh,
from Breakfast
Agreed.
Club and stuff like that. But yeah,
Nice.
so it's
I
an
was thinking Bender from
interesting
Futurama as well, but okay.
different,
Oh, but yeah.
very different kind of
Different
character.
Benders, yeah. But
Bender's
we can
coming
watch
back
it. Yeah.
along with the rest of them.
Yeah, I was glad to hear that.
It's
Yeah.
we're in the age of let's bring everything back.
Everything, yep.
Nothing is dead.
Yep.
And just keep bringing
Nothing
things
stays
back.
sacred. It's just going to keep coming back. Nice.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
Now, in terms of what's a film that you feel like would surprise people to find out that you like, Dean?
Yeah, this was, I don't know if you've seen this. It was like Six Underground on Netflix, like about a year and a half ago. Ryan
Oh,
Reynolds and Michael Bay. Yeah, a
yep.
lot of people didn't like that film, but I was like, okay, it's fine because I knew what I was getting into going in. Like, I know what
Mhm.
Ryan Reynolds does, and I know what Michael Bay does. So I was not like expecting some big. I was like, I know exactly what the film is,
Mhm.
and I kind of genuinely found fun moments in it. I was like, okay, this is fine. Like, it's just a turn your brain off action movie. But when I was telling people about it, like, oh, this is the worst thing I've ever seen. This is like horrible. I'm like, yeah, it is. But then, I mean, what Michael Bay film is not? I mean, anything he tried in the most recent year, that's exactly what he does. Like, it's not anything different. Ryan Reynolds, again, it's exactly what he does. So, but like knowing all that going in, I think kind of like helped me like enjoy it. And I kind of still have moments where I would genuinely laugh because it's so lame humor, but it was just in a moment I was just like,
Mhm.
it's so crappy humor, but it's like, oh man, you actually did that. So it's funny. I'll laugh. It's one of those so bad that it's good type movies, right? And I kind of like, yeah, I enjoyed that.
I Hey, Ryan Reynolds has a great thing going with Netflix. Like
Really,
a
yeah.
great thing
He kind
going
of,
with
and now
Netflix.
he's partnering up with Sean Levy too. I don't know if you've seen, like, he's doing Deadpool 3 with him as well
Yep.
after Freak and stuff. But
Yeah, like they're on a good
Red
streak
Notice, yeah.
together with
Yep.
Free Guy. And then I really enjoyed the Adam Project. I had a lot of fun
Yeah.
with that. And then, Red Notice that came out last year with The
With
Rock and
Nathan Rock,
Ryan
yeah.
Reynolds. And, that's exactly what you expect it to
Yep.
be. And it's just like, I
I'm
had fun
kind of
with
feeling the
this.
fatigue though, I'll be honest with you, like with Ryan Reynolds. Like Red Notice and Freak Guy, I kind of saw within like the same like span. I'm like, oh, he's playing the same guy again and again. So it's like once you know it, you're like, okay, uh, I want to see him do a little bit more, but it's fine. Like it's Ryan Reynolds, he's just being himself. It's funny.
Yeah, it takes films like Buried and stuff like
Mm,
that for you to see like a
yeah.
different dimension to
Yeah.
Ryan Reynolds. But yeah, a lot of times he's just
He's just doing,
doing
yeah.
his thing.
I think like Ryan and Rock, like both and Dwayne Johnson, they both kind of like, I don't see them as actors. I just see them as personas. Like because they're doing so many different things. Like Ryan Reynolds has his own like cell phone company and he's doing like, I think he has like a football team, and The Rock has his own wine and all, like he's
Yeah.
owning wrestling. So it's like they're just coming into the screen, they're just being themselves. And Kevin Hart also goes into this where it's like these guys are just like their personas are what sell. They're not really going into that sense of like DiCaprio style, like I want to get into acting. It's mostly,
Yeah.
hey, people like the persona I am and they want to see me on screen. So it's a different stage now where your influence in social media has kind of affected the film. So yeah.
I'm so ready for that
Mhm.
Hobbs and Shaw sequel
The sequel, yeah, with
that's
Ryan
going to
Reynolds.
have a team up of
Hmm.
Dwayne Johnson, Jason Statham, Kevin Hart, and Ryan
And Ryan
Reynolds.
Reynolds, yep.
Just be the most
It's just,
ridiculous
it is
movie.
going to be completely ridiculous. And I know I will watch it, even though I was like, I'm not going to, I'm no, you know, I'm going to watch it. Everyone's going to watch it.
I took my mom
It's
to see
just,
Hobbs and Shaw because she loves Jason Statham.
oh,
She
okay.
loves The Rock, and she just
Uh-huh.
like ate it up.
Yep.
And just like that movie
Because it's
is
exactly what they do. Yeah.
because that's what this is where I have some very interesting feelings about Fast and Furious franchise because like I've never felt connected to this franchise at all. My brother's a
Okay.
huge fan, and
Hmm.
I think he's more on lines of like he misses them being like a car centric
Yeah.
kind of
Now they're
film
like
franchise and
supersized
stuff like that
movies
because
with
that's
the,
not what
yeah.
they are anymore.
Yep.
They went to space
Yeah.
and like so stupid. And
Yep.
here's the
Literally.
thing. What I had so much problems with the most recent one is it's trying to be that really stupid, fun, silly movie. But then Vin Diesel is so overly serious with like the whole like
Yeah.
this is about family
Yep.
and all that stuff. And I'm just like, what I loved most about Hobbs and Shaw was it's like,
Mhm.
screw you, Vin Diesel, and your
Mhm.
overly serious
Yeah.
perspective on this. We're just going to make something really stupid
They're
and
gonna embrace it. They're
fun.
gonna embrace the stupidity and the weirdness of it. Yeah.
And that is exactly what
Yeah.
Hobbs and Shaw was. It was the
Yeah.
most ridiculous,
Yep.
over the top. Like I had so much bigger problem with the whole space thing than I did with The Rock, literally like
Yeah.
holding a truck and a
Throwing
helicopter
it.
together because this movie's
Oh
stupid to
yeah, that
begin with.
happened. Yeah. A lot, there's a lot of stupid stuff in that movie. But then it's stupid to the intent of being stupid. Like
Yep.
they're trying to push that boundary. The only thing I felt like that movie should have left the Rock Samoa part for the second one, because I feel like when the Idris Elba was defeated, then they had an extra third act where they went to the rocks, and I'm like, okay, that part I feel like they added in, but if it was saved for a later movie with a lot of it said there, it might have been more fun. But either way, like, yeah, I know, I get why they did it. They wanted to show a little bit of both their worlds, and it was fun, like just seeing a bunch of tribal men just attack
Yeah.
these military guys.
The tone of your movie when Idris Elba quotes the line, "I'm the Black Superman."
Yeah.
And it's just there. And you're just like,
it's good.
That's his movie.
This is the thing we're watching. And the action is pretty good. I won't lie. Like, it's better than the Fast and Furious action, I feel. Like the hand-to-hand stunts and the combat in Hobbs and Shaw. I kind of like that a lot. It's pretty...
It's such a fun thing, and like that's why I can appreciate like Six Underground objectively as a movie. I'm like, this was trash. Yeah. But like if you just throw it on and just be like, this is a Michael Bay movie. What the hell else do you expect from this?
Yeah, there's literally like nothing. Like it's so bad that it'll be kind of good if you know what to look for.
I'm a little interested to see how Ambulance turns out, because I'm like, this looks like a serious
one, yeah.
And I'm like,
are you planning to watch it? I don't know. I might skip that and wait, but I don't know. What are you thinking?
Oh, I watch everything. So I'll be watching it and I'll be like, I don't know if I like you taking this seriously, Michael Bay, because I feel like this should be more fun. But you know, the biggest thing for me is Jake Gyllenhaal. So I'm at the point where it's just like, he's so great that I'm excited to just watch him on screen, and he looks like he's having a good time.
Yeah.
Now, Dean, to wrap things up with my last question for you is, what do you love most about movies?
Yeah, awesome. So this question I like to be asked a lot. So I think growing up as an introvert, all of us kind of realized we didn't really have like this place to fit in or talk or express ourselves. And I think movies and books kind of became my form of escapism, because movies are basically like storytelling. It's just one form of storytelling. And I got a chance to like go and see how other people tell stories in film, like through film. Yeah, basically. And I like that because it's like, let's go watching movies in theaters. I think movies and libraries, these are the only two places I think left now where there's no social obligation to be a part of it. Like when you go to a movie theater, you just go sit there and it's dark and the movie's on for 2 hours and you can do whatever you want. You can pay attention, you can fall asleep, you can do anything. But that there's no social obligation that comes with it, which is rare. Like you don't really find that in most other aspects in today's world. And I think that's the initial part of like watching movies on the big screen that connected with me. Is like you're completely immersed in this 2-hour experience on the big screen. And depending on how well the director does its job, you either feel it or you don't feel it. Like sometimes you'll watch 2-3 hour movies and you're like, oh, that's done. That's crazy. Like the Batman, right? The Batman kind of is a long movie, but it's so gripping and you're just in it. You don't think about anything else, right? And it's me wanting to figure out how they did it and how to capture it. Like every time I'm going into the like movies that are really good, I'm trying to see what emotions it brings out of me. And then I'm trying to like think on how the director did it. Like going back to like how we talked about Jojo Rabbit. It pulled out certain emotions in me. I'm like, oh, this is like a deeper emotion that I didn't know I had. And I want to know how the director did that. How did Lord and Miller know what to show that made me think back to like 20 years ago? How did No Way Home figure out how to wrap up something so well and make me feel like 20 years completed? So I'm very intrigued in like storytelling like that, like with movies. And like basically now it's also gone to streaming services, which is kind of like that entire arc there. But it's basically how these people come in and they're able to pull you in, tell you a story, give your attention. And then when you're done with it, you kind of have this feeling of you felt something that you didn't think you could feel, or you've experienced a life of someone you didn't think you would know about. And that's the kind of part I love about movies. Like you can tell these stories that people don't know, that people don't hear about. But if you do a good job of it, you can actually like set the stage for more. And they talk about this a lot with superhero films. Like nobody likes bad superhero films because it's bad for everything. But if you have a good one, like Wonder Woman, for example, like that was a really good female superhero film that kind of set up Black Widow and Captain Marvel and a bunch more, because they're like, oh, this is a story from a woman's perspective about being a hero, and that resonated with a lot of people. Yeah. And now we're seeing like the ripple effect of that in cinema now. Like a lot of films that come out now are because that kicked it off. And that's the thing. So that's that power that movies have. And I hope it's not going away. Like now I feel it's kind of like it's really hard because with short form content coming in and attention spans kind of going down with the new generation. It's really hard to capture someone for 2.5 hours. Like even when I watch a movie at home on Netflix, like with people who are younger than me, they're always like on their phone, or it's like really hard to capture the attention. Yeah. Right. And that's something that I think older movies used to do before, because we didn't have anything else growing up. We would just go and watch it. Like I would actually get up in the morning and read through the newspaper and see when they used to list all the movies playing. Yeah. And I would go and see. But then, yeah, that's kind of what I love. It's just that immersive experience, like watching it on the screen. You can just be pulled into someone's story for a short while. understand that story completely, feel a lot of things, and then hopefully leave with something better.
Well, that brought back a memory of having to look in a newspaper to see when a movie time was going to be.
I used to do that, yeah.
Because it was a thing. You actually had to do that. We didn't have
all
the
channels
internet.
and everything. Yep, pretty much. Like I remember there was an entertainment newspaper that I would just go through in the morning and see what they were playing.
Yep.
Yeah.
But I definitely appreciate that, Dean. And now, how I always like to wrap up this show is our little wild card is my guest gets to ask me a question.
Oh, okay.
So, Dean, what would you like to ask the Wasteland reviewer?
Let me see, Shane. All right. I don't know if you've answered this before, but what part of your like Wasteland would you consider like a film that people need to see from your, if you could just pick one and be like, oh, not enough people have seen this, we need to.
So like my content on my channel or like a film, like an actual film?
The content on your channel. I mean, no, like your content about film.
Okay.
Like which film, would you say? Something that I probably have not heard about, but I'm like, oh, you think it's really nice.
So I remember doing my review for this movie.
Oh,
did I? No, actually, this came out. I'm trying to think. So like just generally, so like some of these like side kinds of things is like I think most people like watch my videos and like my reviews and stuff like that. But I really love my Welcome to the Wasteland show where I take a deep dive into a particular film. And I feel like one that really struck a chord with me, and I actually have.
Yeah, put it out.
It's like going to the movie library. Let's see. Last. Oh, it's right in front of my face. Shining there. Is the Last Waltz.
Last Waltz. Okay.
And so I've been watching and discussing Martin Scorsese films since September. Okay. It's been taking me that long.
It's been a while.
One a week. Okay. And Martin Scorsese, I feel like most people just perceive as like gangster movie guy. Because, you know, like Goodfellas and Casino and The Irishman and The Departed. But like he has a lot of versatility in what he's done. And he's done a lot of documentaries too. And a lot of interesting documentaries. And this, The Last Waltz, is actually a concert film that he directed back in 1978.
Whoa. Okay.
And this was the last performance of the band, which was a famous classic rock band. It was an American and Canadian band.
Okay.
That kind of set the stage for like, you know, a lot of like homegrown American kind of bands. And this film incorporates some of the biggest stars of the time, from Bob Dylan to Eric Clapton to a whole bunch of other people coming out and performing these songs. And this is a 2-hour film. And as somebody,
so it's not a documentary, just to confirm.
So like, it's a concert film. So like, the film is the concert, but like they do interviews and stuff like that, interspliced and stuff like that. But so you see all these amazing performances, and this is like them at their peak. These are amazing performers. And what strikes a chord with me is I love music, and music's a big passion of mine too. And I used to watch documentaries on like VH1 and VH1 Classic, because you know MTV and VH1 don't really show music stuff anymore. So like I used to watch documentaries all the time about music. I used to watch concert films all the time, because like growing up an introvert, I don't like concerts. There's a lot of people and sometimes getting very rowdy people, and also probably smoking a lot of stuff, depending on the concert. But in general, this was such an amazing experience because it's a beautifully shot film. It's impeccably captured, this performances, and they're amazing performances. And I can just feel it. And I remember doing my video on my channel. Nobody joined me for that episode. That might actually be one of my Welcome to the Wasteland episodes I didn't have a guest. And in hindsight, I really wish that I asked my two friends, Alex and Jim, to come on, because they've recently come on for some of the other music documentaries that Scorsese has done. And I think it would have been a really awesome conversation. But this is if you love music, This is an amazing culmination of like a couple of decades of the biggest music of the time, and it's such a well-made film, and it's something a little bit different from Martin Scorsese. So
would you like, why is it called The Last Waltz?
For The Last Waltz.
Okay, love it. Let's do it, man.
So
why is it called The Last Waltz? Is there, or is that a spoiler, or?
Because it's their last concert as a band. So like the band broke up after this concert. So this was their farewell concert, and they're like, let's pull out all the stops. And they just had all of these guest performers on, and it was pretty incredible.
Yeah.
So, and I had heard about it, and I remember finally watching. I'm like, this is so cool. And then I've watched this movie like a good 4 or 5 times at this point. So that's definitely something that I could just throw on and just enjoy. Just have on there. So all you out there, go show that episode some love, because I'm very passionate about it.
Yeah, man.
And it might also be one of the longest articles that I wrote for Scribe magazine.
Oh wow. Yeah, you really put some thought into this. Yeah.
But yeah, that was a great question. I appreciated that.
Yeah, no worries, man. And I'm glad I heard something different. Like, it sounds like The Last Dance, which I don't know if you saw Netflix, Michael Jordan's thing. But I'm like, but in terms of sport, but this is in terms of music. It's kind of very similar. But
I don't know. I think I watched the Netflix one, like that. Oh no, because that started on ESPN.
The Last
That
Dance.
documentary series was great.
Oh yeah, that was insanely. Yeah.
Oh my God. I used to watch basketball, and like don't watch a whole lot of basketball anymore. But like that made me want to watch basketball again. I'm just like,
that got me into basketball, to be honest. Like I never watched it, but after seeing that, I'm like, oh, this is how much goes into basketball, and this is what Chicago Bulls were back then. Like,
yep.
So, and I'm hoping like Last Waltz. Okay, I mean, it sounded like you were describing something similar in that sense, but yeah.
Well, I think any kid in the mid '90s were fans of the Chicago Bulls because of you know Space Jam.
Yeah, pretty much. And that's how I knew Jordan first. Like I knew him through Space Jam more than the Bulls.
Yep. That Space Jam was actually the first movie I remember seeing in a theater.
Whoa, okay.
I was like 4 years old and remember going to see Space Jam.
Wow. And again, that's a movie I can still watch anytime. I still love that movie.
And then the new one came out. We're not going to talk about that.
The new one as much. Yeah.
But
because
Dean,
again, I'm not connected to basketball, so I'm like, okay, cool.
Yeah, but Dean, thank you so much for coming on. I had a lot of fun.
Course, man. Yeah, thank you. It's fun being in the Wasteland with you.
Very good. Now, if you'd like to take another chance to shamelessly plug your channel and your Instagram.
Yeah, so it's Post Credits Dean, just like it's on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. I'm currently trying to grow my base, my platform. If you kind of like how we had this conversation, here's a lot more of that. I love the art of filmmaking. I love the art of storytelling, and I'm trying to, and this is my journey of going into it. Like I'm starting out with movie reviews, but gradually it's going to expand into like me trying to enter the space, trying to be in some form of a writer or a director or a creator. Like I kind of want to see where I fit in, because one of my passions is to work in this industry in some capacity. And that's what Post Credits Dean is going to be about. It's just a journey of a storyteller who's kind of through the last 20 years learned a bunch of stuff just by observing. Not really through any formal education, just mostly through just rewatching and watching and observing things. And now I'm kind of like, okay, let's see. There's a lot more to movies than people think. There's a lot more movies now than people like think. There's movies everywhere. There's shows everywhere. There are some great films that just go unnoticed forever. But that's the thing. That's a fun part about this is like, you can make the best thing ever and it goes nowhere, or you can make absolutely nothing and it suddenly becomes a big hit. It's all just part of just understanding this world of storytelling. And yep, that's Post Credits Dean. Anywhere else, yeah,
and just to capture that, today as we record this, there's 22 new films that came out in theaters, on streaming and VOD. Just insanity.
In March, no less. Just imagine in the summer and later on, when actually now it's just like pretty much.
This is just some random week in March.
Yep.
So there you go. But Dean, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you, man. Thank you, Shane. I appreciate it, man. Have a great time.
And thank all of you out there for always tuning in and supporting your Wasteland reviewer.